The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. While Jesus was speaking, an official came forward, knelt down before him, and said, "My daughter has just died, but come, lay your hand on her, and she will live." Jesus rose and followed him, and so did his disciples. A woman suffering hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched a tassel on his cloak. She said to herself, "If only I can touch his cloak, I shall be cured." Jesus turned around and saw her and said, "Courage, daughter, your faith has saved you." And from that hour, the woman was cured. When Jesus arrived at the official's house and saw the flute players and the crowd who were making a commotion, he said, "Go away, the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him. When the crowd was put out, he came and took her by the hand, and the little girl arose. And news of this spread throughout all that land. The Gospel of the Lord. Yeah, it's a powerful scene, and maybe more powerful because we've had this recollection in the Gospel of Mark recently. We know, so we're hearing various accounts of the same incident that makes it, it affirms for us the fact that this is a very important moment in the life of Jesus's early, kingdom of God movement. The early church is telling this story with some vigor. And the vivid recollection here is quite remarkable. But what is at the heart of the scene? What is there here for us today? We see, of course, the disfiguring forces at work in the world, marring God's good creation. And I want to. I always think about 100 things when I say that, and I don't know which ones of them to share, how many of them to share. I don't want to share that many of them. I think it's, we have to see the goodness of God's creation and these disfiguring forces as not part of God's creation. Otherwise, we don't understand, I think, God's mourning and lamenting the disfiguring of his creation. Right? If these are forces that he's unleashed, then, well, okay, fine, he's in control, he's having them do their business and all the rest. But if these really are corrupting forces, disfiguring God's good creation, especially man made in his own image and likeness, then we can understand his response, we can understand Jesus's response. Right? Jesus is like the ultimate empath, right? Even though he knows he's going to raise his friend Lazarus from the dead, he's crying. He's crying like a little baby, right? He's crying. He's mourning. He's deeply, deeply troubled. And I don't know that we always get that human picture of Jesus. We need to. We need to. Because he's renovating humanity from the core, from the heart, from the inside out. And if we don't get a good look at who he is, then we won't know who we're made to be either. Right? So, but here we have these disfiguring forces at work. This woman held captive by internal bleeding, and of course the young girl who's died, the ultimate kind of disfiguring of creation, death, and so. What do we have here? Of course, we know we have of course some firsthand experience with impurity and ritual impurity, right? We have this, if any of us come in contact with COVID-19, we have to quarantine and the rest. The quarantine back then, at least for these things, I don't think was actually as serious as the ones that we've inflicted on ourselves. I mean, Jesus said touching this woman or having this woman touch him. I should say, have this woman touch him, he may have had to then go and bathe and the rest and observe something like a day by himself so that he doesn't become a vector for the transmission of whatever disease she may have had and may have been able to pass on. So she touches him, she knows, of course, that she is unclean and that she'll make everyone else unclean. And it's just, I have to say, unclean right in the little air quotes, because it's the same thing as this COVID thing. If we just start calling it unclean, then it's just the same. It's the same thing. Of course, it takes on other connotations as you go, but that's the point. That's the point. And yes, we know that this isn't really embellished or overinflated. I mean, this is the way. This is how human wisdom passes down through generations, right? It's like, don't touch people who are afflicted with particular illnesses that can be transmitted to you, and don't touch dead people because maybe they died of something that you don't want to get, right? It's really that simple. And here Jesus has an encounter with both. But what happens, right? Infection works the other way. Doesn't work. It doesn't go that way, because Jesus has, again, power over the disfiguring forces. And here in the woman, she's restored to her. She's restored to her full humanity by faith in Jesus' power over the disfiguring forces. So she's restored, and of course, because she's alien to her own people in this sense, right? If she's bleeding, okay, well then she can't touch anybody. She can't be around anybody. So, but here she's restored, and she's restored not just like in her person, but as a person, because people are made to live in community. So, I mean, how limited was her own life of love as a result of the illness that she suffered? Jesus restores her to that, overcoming those disfiguring forces. And of course, death, right? Much more the same. Except here, of course, the corpse doesn't reach out to Jesus. Jesus reached out to the corpse. So he's going to take the initiative. In case there was any doubt, because of course the woman takes the initiative in the first part. There's no doubt in the second. Jesus is taking the initiative. He wants to overcome those disfiguring forces. He wants to raise people to new life. And this is a big part of why this story is told and retold and the rest, because the language again is resurrection. Like the little girl arose, right? And to the woman, your faith has rescued you. Your faith has saved you. And Jesus of course is about that rescue mission, right? He's going not just to meet the disfiguring forces here. He's going to take them on in his own body. He's going to take them on in his own life. He's going to take on death itself and suffer and die under it, to rise freed from the ravages of sin and death, to give us new life. But let's remember, if he's overcoming the disfiguring forces, right, that are corrupting God's creation, then we should expect him to restore also in us God's original plan for his creation. And that means that being made in his image and likeness, he's made us also to embody the love of God. He's made us to love. And we can't lose sight of that, because he's restoring us as well. Right? His life, his infectious life, right? His infectious for the otherness, he's giving to us. And it takes the shape of his own life. And it's ours then to through and with and in him embody the love of God, knowing that we're likely also to suffer as a result. Because in this world, love suffers. Love is willing to suffer. Right? Love, and we persevere in love, no matter what we're going to confront. Even the disfiguring forces that are still at work in God's creation, even though they've been ultimately defeated, right? They still have to be, say, pushed through and defeated again in us. Not ultimately. It's Jesus who does it. It's Jesus who's done it. But that victory still has to be worked out in us. And it's worked out in love. So we have to persevere there in living for the other, living totally for God, giving ourselves over to him, without reservation, without hesitation, and then living in his service, bringing his love to life in the world that still so desperately needs it, right? And to go, just as Jesus was, to go to the places of the world's deepest pain, brokenness, and suffering, and the rest, and to find ourselves there, that we might also raise up God's fallen world.